Okay, so what your angels and ancestors and spirit team want you to know today. Okay, so I'm brought here first. You are receiving divine justice, okay, because you had somebody in your energy field that was lying to you. They were fairly deceptive, okay, possibly deliberately triggering you. And what the divine justice is that you are now out of this anguish that they were putting you in. That's why it's upside down. So you've come out of that. That's the justice. It wasn't completely upright. When I was pulling the deck, it flew, and it was like this. So it was, we're talking what, 5-10% left. So you may still be feeling a tiny bit of anguish here and there, but for the most part, you're over the hill. You've just got a tiny bit to go, okay? And what's happened, the love card flew out sideways, is because your love is less for this person. And if it's, I don't know if less is the right word, you're just not interested in union the way you used to be. You've chose yourself and you've actually gone silent. And why you've gone silent is because you're ascending. Okay, that's what flew out underneath there. This person doesn't know that you're ascending, or well, if they do know, they don't know what that is. They haven't got the emotional vocabulary to really understand what that means, or spiritual vocabulary, but you're putting them in a tower nevertheless, okay, because you've become this King of Swords, okay. You're in charge essentially, and possibly you were with somebody who wanted to be in charge, but you're now in charge to some degree. I don't really feel like I feel like you're ascending, and it's because your vibration is higher, therefore you're sort of in the superior position. Not that I like to play with those kind of things, but you've just got more space, more emotional, spiritual space than this person does. So this person's in pain, okay, and I wouldn't be surprised if you were in pain previously. It's like it was almost like a circle. So you're in pain, you're in anguish, which you've come out of. You found divine justice, and divine justice was there because this person was deceptive, or at least just didn't treat you the way they should do, which has finally made you realize that you're pouring that love into yourself. You're not waiting for union. It's not completely upside down, so it makes me feel you still do have some love for them, but it's more balanced now. Before, you're probably quite sacrificial before you were ascending or ascended. So essentially, you're seen as the person who's resisting the connection, because we also got runner turn up, and this was sideways, and I believe it's sideways because although you would be considered the runner, and in some ways you are running away from the pain, but you're running away from the energy that impacts your high vibration. I don't really feel like you're running away to get them back, like I'll show you. You're literally running to your peace, running to your spiritual ascension, running to yourself. And this person thought it was a bluff. They thought you showing that you're not ready, you're not wanting union with them was a bluff. But they're starting to realize, and they're looking at your pictures a lot, and they feel lost. That was probably not an accident. So whilst looking at your pictures, they're very aware how lost they feel because they can't feel you right now. Maybe you had a telepathic connection with this person and spirit stepped in the way, so they're sort of blocked. They can't energetically pick up on you. That's why the escape card is out here. You've escaped. I think some of the issues may have to do with the fact that you just didn't feel like you could express yourself in this relationship. I don't know if you just weren't a match, or this person has issues with expressing themselves, expressing their emotions, and they have an issue with vulnerability of some kind, and you felt like, I don't even feel like you felt like you could be yourself. This person just wanted it to be about them, maybe. But that's changing. It's sideways because it will be upright, and you will find people or person where when you do express yourself, you'll be given your flowers. That's why flowers is on here. So I wouldn't be surprised if this person was quite impressed with you when you did express yourself, but there was no sort of validation. Not that it's their job to validate, but I sort of feel like they went the other way. So you just never felt comfortable, is the feeling I get. But one of the things that's become illuminated to you is that there was a time you were blind about this person's pursuits and pleasure and how important that was to them, and it could have caused you a lot of pain to recognize that this person has addictions or something or other, something 3D that they were placing above their love for you. But ultimately it did help you make the changes that were necessary. I believe I'm tapping into somebody who's happily single. And if you're not, you found somebody that that's fine. Just take it where it fits. But for many of you, I think you've learned to not only be single but happily single. This person isn't in the greatest energy, that now that you've escaped, because I do believe this person would like to be the one that was in control, and possibly was in control for a long time by withholding and not expressing themselves and keeping you at arm's length, or just resisting the connection entirely to pursue whatever they had going on over here. But now you're in this energy of not today. You're flying high up in this balloon. You're silent. I doubt they can't feel you energetically even, so they're just in the memory of you. And I wouldn't be surprised if you see this person as shallow. Maybe somebody who can't control their urges, or yeah, or maybe not just shallow, maybe hollow. Yeah, because I have a feeling this person likes the party lifestyle, like just fun and just like quite surface pleasures. I think that's where I'm trying to go. Not things that have too much meaning. And I think you recognise that you don't want that. That's why it's upside down. So that maybe that was another sort of nail in the coffin for you. Also, they probably bottle up their emotions and deal with their pain, not the healthiest ways. Yeah, so I think you've maybe got clarity about their pain, how they handle pain. Maybe it was somewhat obscured to you at some point. Yeah, they fed you an illusion of some kind, but you're out of this anguish. Divine justice is yours. You're ascending, okay? And yes, it's bringing them a tower. But the tower isn't always bad. It shakes the foundation so they can build the true foundation rather than the faulty foundation, which for them is more than likely filled with illusion too, because they're doing you can call it low vibrational surface pleasures to occupy their pain rather than actually healing it. But this person is essentially missing your warmth, missing your healing energy, and that they obviously took for granted, and they did that because they were more interested in lust. Okay. They like non-committed situations a lot, okay, to a point where you can't really work with that. Yeah, so this person's trying not to think about you. Now they can't feel your energy. Now they, because you've ascended too high, your vibration isn't close to them. You needed to be in this anguish, this pain 24/7 and more, for them to be able to access you, but they can't now because you're not in that pain. You've almost healed it, like you've got 5-10% left of anguish residue left over, so they can't. And you're going to learn how to, well, not learn, but you're going to be around people where you're allowed to express yourself and it's validated, or is it validated or just celebrated? Yeah, so this person wanted you in your imagination. Maybe they use their imagination in a lustful way. Can I tap out that energy, please, Spirit? Yeah, so you chose you're nourishing yourself. This person's interested in passion, okay? This is all your past with them and, their past. But you chose nourishment, synchronicities. But Spirit is asking you to be a little bit more patient with yourself. Messages for the collective, please, Spirit. Yeah, so this person really can't feel you, and they're afraid to contact you. Messages for the collective, please, Spirit. Yeah, so they see you as warm. They know you're healing from this. They know you're afraid to contact you, flying out again. They know you're getting further and further away and you're not conflicted. Maybe there was a time you were a bit more conflicted than you are. Well, you definitely, because the Anguish card is almost upside down. Tell me more, please, Spirit, for the highest good of all and God's will. And you're walking karma. So you've taught this person a massive lesson. And I saw abundance card upside down there. I do think their abundance has been impacted, and if it's not money, it's just their well-being, because they're in the memory of you. They can't feel your warmth, your energy. That was fueling them, and it was fueling them without them knowing and you knowing. But now it's not there, and you're ascending to a vibration that they can't reach. They can't feel you energetically. It's impacting them. I'm hearing this didn't happen before. You know, this hasn't happened to them before. Yeah, because they usually anchor everybody in. Possibly by dismissing them, treating them badly, and you were maybe in this energy for a while. They were treating you like that, and you were anchored more and more in by them treating you to some kind of like trauma bond energy. But you've broken free. You've resisted that, and there's 2 resistance cards showing out here. They weren't expecting this. I think you could possibly see this person as a clown and not a very good one. Messages for the collective, Spirit, for the highest good of all, in God's will. I think you're quite an open book as a person. You know, you're very honest. You know, I don't think you have that many secrets, or whereas I think this person does. They're like the opposite. They live an illusion. I wouldn't be surprised they have a secret life. You know, they're or you found out about something like that. Yeah, so they genuinely made you feel like they didn't want you. That's maybe how they controlled you, or that, you know, they gave you just enough and to keep you in this anguish vibration, this painful vibration, so they could have you anchored in. But Spirit released you from this. You found peace. Yeah, time was up on it. It was written to be like this, that you would finally learn how to be diligent and put yourself first and ascend. But now many things are reminding them of you, but they're doing their best to resist it. This could have been a soulmate or twin flame, put it where it fits. So there was deep love here, but they treated the connection poorly, and it was divine justice that you would ascend out of it. And I genuinely believe no one has done it before in their life. I think they've got quite a few people anchored down. But you chose self-indulgence. You found yourself worth. You had a choice, and you made the choice, which has now impacted their abundance. They didn't think you'd get on that ship, but you have. On that ship to calmer waters. Yeah, I saw union upside down. You're not waiting for union. You're choosing possibilities. Love is at the bottom. I think you're more than happy to meet a soulmate that has more possibility than this energy could give you. And what they could give you is pain. That's a guarantee over here. And I think that guarantee doesn't look so enticing anymore. You had your fair share. Yeah, so it was courageous for you to leave. You chose the light. Messages for the collective, Spirit, for the highest good of all. I'll move next soon. Yeah, this person was always clinging to your energy, okay, because they love you. There's love here. They love you, but it terrified them. So that's why they chose to, I just got the vision of like dabble their feet in shallow waters, like a paddling pool, like not go deep into the deep end with you. And and you know that's where they wanted to live, but they do have deep feelings for you, and you got fed up of that shallow water. You wanted to swim, you wanted to actually have a real swim, whereas this person can't swim. And they didn't think that you would rise. They didn't. Not only did you learn to swim and not be scared of the depth, you rose and found a boat, whatever you want to call it. It says they hid who they really are from you, and I think they tried to. But you found out. I think maybe your love was so strong for this person, you were overlooking the impact, the negative impact they were having on you. But if it was a high-level soulmate or twin flame, it would be hard. Depth just came out after talking about the deep pool, you know, the deep water. But what they've hidden from you is that they're quite shallow, and they're not interested in the deep side of the pool. They're scared. They can't swim. So you chose inner peace, and you're not locked in like they thought you would. Messages for the collective. Yeah, so they want to call you, and I did have a message earlier, something like about contacting you. Don't know where it is now. I'm afraid to contact you. Yeah, so they're struggling to let this go. Okay. Yeah, they thought that you would be locked into this forever, and they thought they had plenty of time, and it's upside down. They don't. They should have managed their time better than hanging around where there's no depth. Because now the depth isn't on offer. Channeling. Yeah, I think they managed to stay in your life because you have quite a warm energy, where you love all the people. You can see at the heart of people. You understand the human experience. You know God loves everybody, or something of that. You can see everyone's worthy, even if it doesn't look like that to everybody. I think your nature is very understanding and giving, and you finally gave that to yourself because this person wasn't able to do that for you. God is here. So I'd be surprised if I'm not tapping into somebody who is spiritual, and you believe in the divine, and you know that the divine sees everybody as equal. And I don't think it's a case of like, now you're like, well, no, I don't love everyone. Actually, you're more discerning where your love goes, and you've made sure it goes to yourself. And Archangel Michael's here, just landing under. God is here. Spiritual guidance as well. So you're very spiritual, whoever I'm tapping into. And maybe you don't believe that the angels moved you from this, even though you are spiritual, but Spirit's telling you, yes, they did. Yeah, you did some work too, but don't forget to thank them. Because previous lifetimes you stayed in that energy of anguish and pain, and you were locked in to somebody who's very shallow and has no desire to grow, has no desire to have any depth. They like surface pleasures, and you'd be miserable forever, presumably. Yeah, you understand that nothing and no one belongs to you. You know, like, this is just an experience we're passing through, whereas this person wants people to belong to them and plays all these manipulative games and gives just enough, and I don't know, it's just this darker energy, like, and I don't mean dark like it means, oh, they're the bad one and you're the good one, but you're working on completely different frequencies. Shade has no lights. Eyes forward. So I think this person possibly even impacted you by being mean, or just simply wanted you to live in the shade so you would see no light, but you were braver than that. You see right through this person. That also scared them, and they could possibly feel it, because I don't think this person, although the shallow cards are coming out, I think they have some spiritual awareness, but they also have awareness of how humans work, and they like to work them, so they don't have to do the work, is what I'm hearing. Yeah, because they need attention. Their ego is starving for attention, but you don't ever need people, you only want them. There might have been a time you felt like you needed this person, but now you realize that you need spiritual depth, you need deep waters to swim in. You're fed up of being in shallow water. Yeah, you could be a divine soldier, and obviously soldiers are set up for war. So maybe you've had to battle some extreme forces here, with love and light. And obviously love and light always sounds sweet and caring, but you know, love has boundaries and light illuminates everything, so it's not so soft. And that's why the walking karma's out here, because you've now given this person love and light, so they have to be illuminated to the fact that they've chosen things that are quite shallow, superficial, surface pleasures, and their abundance has been hit, because they chose that path instead of their divine calling. So they have no choice but to not want to be toxic anymore. Messages for collective spirit. Yeah, you've made them believe in God. Yeah, I don't think I do feel a little hints from spirit saying that you're not really acknowledging them. You're not really acknowledging, like, you're, maybe it's because you got this tiny little bit of anguish left, so you're still sort of sorting that out, so you can't fully see how much of a spiritual awakening you've had here, and how much spirit and the angels and God have had a hand to play in this. So, you know, try to incorporate it into your day if you can. And I just saw divine there. This is all divine. You know, life is divine. Yeah, there's shade and light. You know, there's dark and lightness. But spirit has taken you out of this darkness, this anguish, sorry, this pain. Yeah, there might be some residual, and it doesn't mean that life's just a bed of roses, you know, and that's all it's going to be now you've ascended. But they gave you the strength and the courage to love yourself and choose the divine. Yeah, this person's experiencing karma, and it could be something to do with them using sex magic. They might have been using that on you, but again, when that's come out previously, try not to get caught up too much in that. You have a lot of divine cards again, and spirit's done that deliberately, because no little magic would be able to work on a divine soldier for very long. And the only reason why it probably did is because they were lowering your vibration enough where they could access a door to you. There's not even a door there anymore. That, you know, they can't access you, and it was only going to happen for so long before the divine came in. But of course, always call on Archangel Michael and thank your angels and spirit guides from protecting you from this trauma bond that this person wanted you to be in. And it may have very well had to do with something to do with sex. Yeah, spirit wants you to know that you've come so far. Perhaps you're not recognizing this. Your vibration is much higher. Maybe you wobble or you go back a few steps, and you imagine that you've gone down here, which is probably like 40 steps down, and you forget that you're 40 steps ahead. I don't know. I mean, I don't like using analogies like that too much, because I don't want to sort of be like, they're bad, you're good. You're just different frequencies, and they've got their lessons to learn, just like you have your lessons to learn. No one's better than each other. They might not ascend this lifetime, and that's their, you know, that's their journey. And you're fortunate enough to be ascending this journey. Yeah, this person wants to make it right because they miss you. And now they've found God, and they know that you're healing. The star card moving on. They know you're not coming back. They know. Whereas before, you may have made some moves, but you're there with your head back, turning back, like, ask me to not go away and I'll come back. And you closed that door, you went up 40 steps, and the door disappeared from them. There is no door. Yeah, because you don't want to access that pain anymore. You had enough with it. They were scaring and toying with you and playing with you. So, you know, you had enough of that. Spirit's asking you to keep up a gratitude journal. Yeah, I still don't think you realise the spiritual nature of this. Or you do, but like, intellectually, but maybe not emotionally. And you don't recognise actually how profoundly amazing it is that you managed to step away from this, especially if this person's a wizard and they're playing with all sorts of things. But again, that can't be for everyone. It's a general reading. They could just well have, you know, quite a manipulative mindset, and you got caught up in that. Yeah, you're chosen. Yeah, you're shedding your people-pleasing skills. They're sideways, so maybe you still feel, even though you're shedding it, it might still feel a bit uncomfortable to you. Maybe you experience a tiny bit of anguish for standing up for yourself and asserting boundaries and things like that. But I think you'll get out of that because you're an eagle. You've got a better vantage point, but maybe you were trained or groomed, or you've had a life where you put the other first, some sort of trauma-based appeasement. So when you do stand your ground at times, and it might not even just be with people, it could be with organisations or something like that. You feel like, oh, you know, like, am I allowed to do that? You know, yeah, you're allowed to stand your ground and advocate for yourself or whatever it takes. If you do believe in aliens, you know, and you could very well come from a star family and they look after you, but obviously that's, you know, that's only where if it chimes with your belief system. Stand your ground. Spirit, thank you so much. Yeah, you do stand your ground, and you are and have been, and that's part of you shedding this people-pleasing skills. Self, I was meant to say, but yeah, maybe you've been doing it for a long time because it came from your own trauma, you know, like you had to be safe or something. God bless. Tell me more about a hold on card has come out here, which I have a few feelings from that. I feel like this person wants you to hold on, and also if you do encounter this sort of wobbliness for standing your ground, or life does get a bit challenging, even though you're 40 steps ahead and the door's disappeared, do hold on. Like, you're allowed to wobble, and you're allowed not to be perfect, and you're allowed to find your balance again, and you're allowed to be human. Okay, you're allowed to make mistakes. You're allowed to forgive yourself. You're allowed to ask for forgiveness. Like, I don't know why that's coming through like that. Just, I could be tapping into a writer, or Spirit wants you to write this down. We did have earlier about writing a gratitude journal. So if that doesn't chime for you in any way, Spirit wants you to keep up a gratitude journal for you, and also thanking your angels and ancestors. Yeah, so the scales are being balanced, and the scales being balanced is that karma's hitting them, the lessons hitting them, possibly in their pockets, and if not, just their well-being, or both, for choosing to, I guess in some ways, not to be so brave. Okay, they chose, they don't know how to swim and refuse to get the lessons, and decided to drag you into shallow waters and keep you there chained up, so you didn't even know there was a deeper sea that you could swim in. And it's no, I'm not having a go at anybody who actually can't swim. It's just analogies that Spirit likes to use. Yeah, you've got new people coming in now, and I think it's not just that. I feel like spiritual people, but also spiritual beings can access you now. This is gone, you know, this isn't with you so much anymore. Yeah, so maybe these people try to make you feel horrible or not good enough, or, you know, something of theirs. Try to take nature walks, even if you're not, you know, live in a city. Try to walk in the park and notice the trees, and maybe get a sketchbook and draw them badly, or try to connect with nature if you can, but obviously, you know, don't if you don't want to. Yeah, so essentially these energies, and particularly this energy, just doesn't match your self-worth. Okay, and it's their problem that they didn't see you until you left. Okay, it's like now the door's vanished, they're like, oh my god, you know, that door was beautiful, and it was, you know, when I opened the door case, it was just a staircase of light, and I chose to hang around in the hallway, and now it's gone, it disappeared. Maybe this person tried to keep you under some kind of mind control. It's a general message, it can't be for everybody, but they wanted you in your emotions, hurt, not feeling good enough, feeling like there must be something wrong with you, and essentially all the things they feel about themselves. But you were actually their medicine. and they recognize that now. You've gone. You're healing them. That's what that means. Messages of the collective blue spirit and God's will. The highest good of all. Yeah, so keep standing your grounds and know it's divine justice for you to stand your ground. Messages of the collective blue spirit. Yeah, their monies are being impacted. And it could be being impacted because they're heartbroken, okay? And they're heartbroken because you got on the chariot and moved on. You moved on from their toxic energy. You grew out of it with spirit, of course. And it's because that came up sideways because they weren't giving you the love that you deserved, okay? And they want to cut. They either came in with just a page. I don't even think they were a page. You know, like a tiny. They're giving you tiny offers. But again, yes, again, they want to give you and they were balancing you possibly with someone else or something else. And they weren't. They were supposed to be an emperor, okay? And they barely showed up like this, in my opinion. And they want to show up like this again to you, which I'm hearing is laughable. They haven't got a choice. You know, like they haven't got a chance, sorry. Yeah, so you ended this conflict for yourself. You don't, you know, you don't want to be juggled with someone else. And that was Wheel of Fortune. And it was really fortunate to come out of this horrible pain that they constantly put you in, so you would be locked in into some kind of trauma bond where you found it harder to access spirit and see sense to some degree. I'm not saying that you didn't have sense, but I think you were highly attracted to this person, and for the wrong reasons in some ways, because it was the trauma you had experienced. They had nothing to offer you but pain, really. It did strengthen you, though. And the Page of Swords is here. That person's got their sword up. Obviously, I'm not saying that you use swords, but in an energetic, spiritual way, you started to recognise your strong will, and you can cut people out when they don't treat you right, and that's justice. Or stand up for yourself, or you know, whatever you want to call it, because you know for sure you're never going to go back into that pain again. That Ten of Swords energy, that's why it's upside down. That cycle's ended for you. No one will be able to do that to you again. You won't allow it to happen. So this person's lost your love. Your cup is upside down. The door's vanished. You're swimming in the deep waters. You've ascended with a hot air balloon. You're on the ship. Yeah, and now their foundation is wobbly. So, you know, just be in the towers here. Just be mindful that doesn't, if they're a twin flame or high level soulmate and you're sensitive, it could very well, yeah, make your judgment a bit funny because they're in your energy field a bit, and especially if they're playing around with low vibrational magic, which I really don't think is impacting you the way they want it to, because if it was impacting you enough, you'd be back there. But you do have a slither of anguish, so just be mindful. I would keep your silence if I was you, because they want you conflicted. You're not conflicted. That happened because as long as you're conflicted, the door will start emerging again and they can come in. But as long as you're not conflicted and you're choosing silence and ascending and going on nature walks and being thankful to the divine and forgiving yourself for the mistakes and the time you've wasted here, the less they can get in and the more tower that they will experience, and the towers for them to learn. I think it's happening anyway, but you know, the gratitude journal's for you, not for them, like, oh, I better do it because otherwise the door will emerge and they can come through. But no, it's to help you increase your 10 of Cups, which already exists inside of you, but it's uncovering it. And this person did not want you there. They wanted you in the 10 of Swords upside down for the rest of your life, so they didn't have to grow. And that's not to say, oh, they're so bad for wanting that. That's all they know. That's all they can give. Okay, so don't sort of stew around on it like, you know, they should have treated me better. They treated you as good as they can treat you. That's all they have. Okay, which is a cup upside down. They don't know. They can't give that to themselves, so they're never going to be able to give it to you. And they knew that they had to at least try. But but you're and they didn't, so you chose peace. You got out of this burden that they were giving you, consciously or unconsciously, but it does feel like some of you it was a bit conscious. But you're the high priestess, you see everything, and you're healing, and you're going to continue to choose healing and stay away from this person that can only offer you conflict and pain for whatever reason that is, and now you're dismissing them. Okay, and well done for staying away. Okay, I'll leave that there. Thank you so much for being here. Archangel Michael, please look after myself and the collective. Please protect us. So mote it be.